Welcome to the No Shame Podcast. This is John Groders. Today's guest is Chris Dowling, writer and director. His latest film, Run the Race, explores the topic of brotherhood. I have a brother, maybe you do too. Executive producers Tim Tebow and his brother Robbie brought added notoriety to the film. Stick with us today on No Shame.
Have no shame, no, we are not afraid, no shame.
Welcome to the No Shame Podcast. This is John Groders, and I am kind of excited and nervous to be interviewing Chris Dowling, who is the director, and he's a writer, and you kind of do everything I sort of want to do in life, so I'll try not to kiss up too much in this interview, which would be really embarrassing. But thank you for joining us today, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. And I don't do a podcast, by the way. So
no, well, podcast you do now. You're on one, live here on the floor of the NRB at the 75th anniversary of the NRB, started in 1944, Anaheim, California. That's the noise you hear in the background. And I think still, right now in theaters, Run the Race is still showing as we speak today. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got 300 screens left. We're kind of, eking out the last kind of bit. Captain Marvel, when Captain Marvel came out, kind of took away a lot of our screens there.
Took all the screens away. So, Run the Race, and this is the other bad thing, is I haven't seen it yet. So I'm not going to pretend to have seen it. I've heard of it. I've seen the trailer. Tell me about Run the Race and everything there is to know about it.
I appreciate your honesty. For me, Run the Race is very much a coming-of-age story of these two brothers, and it's kind of them against the world. They're in this, small podunk town in Florida, and the mom has died of cancer, and the dad's kind of walked out when that happens. And it's what you do when the cards are stacked against you and who you link arms with. And so that's kind of what happens. And they've got this way out. One of the kids is really good at football. They think they're going to get a scholarship, and then even that falls away, and so it's about them just trying to make it. It's two brothers tackling the world, and I think the relationships of brothers is not explored a lot in films like it is. I feel like almost every other relationship you see dramas they do, and I don't know what the reason is really, but for brothers, there's not a lot out there that's really a solid drama about the bond of being bothers.
Is this a true story?
No, not true.
But Tim Tebow and his brother are part of the mix, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Tim is they're both executive producers on it, Tim and Robbie.
Okay.
And I think that played a lot for all of us, because I had, my best friend growing up was my younger brother. Obviously, Tim and Robbie had a connection. Jake, one of the original writers and producers, he has brothers. And so it really kind of was right in the wheelhouse.
And Tim was pretty good at football. He's from Florida.
Tim was good at football, and it was Florida. So, yeah, there are some What is funny, it's a spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Don't listen.
Anyways, it is funny because people would go, oh, it's the story of Robbie and Tim.
Right.
But then when you watch the movie, there's so many obvious ways that it could not be Robbie, which...
Okay. All right, spoiler alert. Don't say any more. We're not giving away anything in the movie. We'll give away this, though. Is it a good movie? Tell me the truth.
I think it's a good movie.
Cool.
And the cool thing is, it's one of those movies that we've had, because a lot of movies that have the faith component of it, they present the world as we would like to see it, and not necessarily as it is. Mm-hmm. And for us, it was really important to be grounded in kind of gritty and authenticity. Mm-hmm. And so it should feel like real people having real conversations. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why this audience has found this affinity for it, is because it's some characters that you get invested in early, and you really feel like you're a fly on the wall, and you want to see them go on this journey. And you don't get, it's not a message movie that's necessarily just trying to pitch you a message and then kind of shoehorn everything else around it. So it's cool. We've had a lot of people that have gone back 2, 3, 4 times, and I think that's powerful, bringing friends back. And as a filmmaker, as you know, it's something that's the best compliment you can get, is that this did something to me where I want to see it again and again and again, and I want other people to come with me to see it again and again and again.
Let's talk nuts and bolts, because when you're the director of a movie, there are some directors that are very hands-on. Some directors kind of walk in, finish shooting, walk away, and then they go watch their movie someday. I don't even talk to you, but how do you direct? What's your MO?
Look, for me in general, the running the set obviously is the first in how you're going to run the set, because it's definitely a top-down, atmosphere. And so I think for me, it's really important to start off with respect. And I don't care if you are the star or you're a PA. If you're a jerk, like, you're probably not gonna be in my set because life's too short to work with people that are jerks. And on top of that, if we're not having fun doing this, I mean, look, I know it's not War and Peace we're making, but if we're not having fun, what are we doing? And so, like, try to make it feel very family, and especially in a movie about family, I feel like it kind of bleeds over into, and so I feel like from the get-go that's important. And then even when that happens and you get invested not only in the project but in the people, all the people around you, and they get invested in you, then I think it makes it that much harder to try to walk away at any point if you're like, oh, I'm gonna start the next movie. And so for me, I did. I mean, and I'll be honest, this was not the easiest post process. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and so we continually were going back and doing things. And I stayed on and there's many times where some of the producers were like, "Hey, we totally understand, if you've run your course." And and that also speaks to having a wonderful wife at home that is very understanding. And she's like, "Why are you going back and doing this? Like you were off that movie a year ago, but." We really had to go back, and again, I was invested in the people too. So like, I wanted to put out the best film that I could put out, not only for me, but again for the team.
So let's talk about there's pre-production. Are you? Let's talk about the pre-pros. I know you got involved in writing. Are you picking your own department chairs? Do you work with the same crew of people every time? How did pre-pro go for you on this movie?
This one was interesting. I had some people that were brought to me, and especially being in Alabama. There's pretty much only one crew there, like it's the Erwin Brothers crew. And I was very fortunate in that early on I had talked to my DP, Chris. I met Chris Kimlin, the guy who's DP'd my other films, who's like become one of my best friends in the world. He's now like a director who's far surpassed me, and so he'll never work with me again, although he is the godfather of my kid, GAWD, because he's agnostic. So he's only given certain respect, a little respect in that, but we're super close, and so it was really scary for me to jump off and go, hey, I have to get another DP.
Absolutely.
And I met Chris, and it was even scarier because Chris pitched me on the idea of when I told him the tone, the feel, and the grit of it. He said, hey, we're not going to use lights. Everything's going to be practical, and we're going to have practical, and we're just going to use natural light.
Wow, you and the Revenant.
Yeah.
Well done.
And so it was actually really scary, but it was exciting for Chris to try that, and it was exciting for me to have a lot of faith in him. And I'm not a very technical guy at all. Like, I care about the story and the characters, but if you go, people are like, hey, what camera did you shoot and what lens? And I'm like, I don't know, ask Chris Kimlin. I just said, hey, this is how I want it to look, and he did it. And so
wow.
I don't care about the technical stuff. It's not a big thing to me. And so anyway, so trusting Kimlin and getting to know him, and now he's become. I mean, it's so funny because our relationship is now mirrored the relationship with my other DP, Alex. And him and I are super tight. And even the next project, I'm literally working the shooting schedule around getting him off the Erwin Brothers film when he's done with that to give us enough time to do that because I won't do the next film without him.
Right.
And so it all worked out. So then he brought his crew on, and there's always in any film like this, there's always people that they give you. As department heads. And it was great because there's some people that I was given that I had actually wanted someone else. Paul Mills was someone I did not know, was brought to me when I was pushing my composer. But then I got to know Paul so well, and he's become such a good friend. And I gave him so much, and he'll talk to us about it, but I challenged him to do a lot of crazy different stuff. Like we were using chains and washboards and all kinds of just crazy weird elements. And it was really cool to see where the first idea of the score came and where we finished up. And it was awesome, man. So like those are the things where I'm glad I got people that were given to me because it worked out such a crazy way.
It sounds like the Bohemian Rhapsody. They've got all these crazy ideas going on. What about locations and plotting? Are you a storyboarder, or do you do camera plots? How do you handle locations and all that stuff?
So as I was speaking to my old DP, Alex, I storyboarded the entire first movie. And then he looked at storyboards and he goes, I have no idea what any of this is supposed to be. I was like, oh yeah, I can't draw, I can't do anything. So he's like, you know what, it actually would help me if you didn't storyboard and we just talked about. So I've carried that on now, and me and Kimlin, we just shot listed and talked about the ideas. And then and then that's kind of the way we tackled that. It was actually funny. There's football, obviously, and Run the Race. And the first day of shooting, which I would never recommend this, it just so happened that we had the actual high school that we were using for our characters' high school. They were having their real championship, high school football game in Birmingham, Alabama, with 800 people in the stands and whatever. And they were just so awesome. The coach and the staff was so awesome. So I just said, hey, can I put my actors in uniform with your guys and have them out there? Maybe we'll let them run on the field sometimes if that's cool. and I'm going to shoot a couple of
You
narrative
put
scenes.
Tim Tebow on a high school team for the Birmingham State Finals. Is that what we just learned on the No Shame podcast?
That is, yeah, I'm going to let you on that. And they won. Imagine that they won the state championship with Tebow at
7
quarterback.
touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. He threw and caught for 7
Yeah,
touchdowns.
ran over 16 kids at one time.
But we like Michael T. Williamson, who played my head coach, got to put on the coaching gear and was literally yelling at their players like while the game was going on. It was crazy. They had no idea.
Really?
I was shooting narrative stuff in the stands.
Nice.
We had Eddie George out there playing an agent. I mean, it was crazy. We had 4 camera crews going, but it was literally day one of shooting. We didn't know each other. We didn't know anything, and it was so chaos. It was hilarious because I had a guy who had a board up that was all the shots we were trying to get. And I mean, literally after 5 minutes in, I just said, he just threw the board because it was like, what are we? I mean, it was chaos. But it all worked out awesome, and it looks great. In fact, this is crazy. Their stud quarterback looked like my quarterback, like they resemble each other, but he wears number 10, and my guy wears number 2. I went to coach. I was like, hey, coach, I know I'm asking a lot here, but your dude looks like my dude.
Wait, you're the writer. You couldn't change the number in your script?
It's too late. That ship had sailed.
Ego.
Anyways,
That's ego, ladies and gentlemen. The writer will not change it. No.
but the crazy thing was, and the coach was like, all right, I'll make him do it. And he made him, so this guy, for his big championship game, switched his jersey number.
I hope they won.
Oh, they won state that year. It was great.
Okay,
They carried
if they
on
had lost, he would sue you.
Yeah. You see the production. It's fantastic.
Right, yeah, LLC. That's what we're I think we probably both sports guys just from meeting you.
Curling and
absolutely.
badminton.
I actually took my family to the curling in the Olympics in Salt Lake City.
Did you really?
And this is a bit of a divergent here, but he says curling as a joke. So we go to the curling, and I don't know much about it. And all the people right behind me seem so knowledgeable about curling. So I turned around and I said, hey, would you guys, I guess my family here, and we're not quite up on the details, the intricate strategies of curling. And they said, it was the Canadian national team, the 3-time gold medal winner, and they gave us buttons. Anyway,
That's
you're
awesome.
right. I'm kind of an addict when it comes to sports. And I have a problem in any movie when it's got anything that I know how to do and it doesn't look right. So if there's guitar playing in a movie and it's bad, I don't like the movie. Sports is the same way. It is hard to get crowd shots when they're not really in the moment of the game. It's overlit and people are acting like they're acting. So I'm now really anxious to see Run the Race with director Chris Dowling, who's our guest on the No Shame podcast, because I bet your stuff looks real.
Yeah, and because a lot of it is real.
Because it's real.
But it's cool. Then afterwards, we did go back and shoot 2 days of overnights of all the football stuff, and it's all just cut together, and it's pretty seamless. It's been cool because, and also with that authenticity, like part of it was when you see these movies, especially studio movies, like every play is like the biggest hit of the century, and it's like I've had a bunch of coaches be like, hey, that was like real high school football.
Amen.
So that was like, because I didn't want to do that. We don't have any of that ridiculous, over the top stuff. But
well, when going back a few years of film that I did called The Frontier Boys, which was had a basketball label, and I just like, okay, we're not going to put smoke in the gym, we're not going to backlight the court as if people play basketball with backlight. And I want the cameras. I want the cameras to remind me of playing basketball when you're on the court and what your peripheral vision is and what you see when you get hit. And so again, maybe the audience doesn't care about that, but I care.
Can I tell you my favorite basketball movie of that sense is, and I still love it, in Teen Wolf, when they allow the other guy to just stand directly in front of him while he's shooting the final free throw. He gets to stand right under the basket and stare at him. It's so great. And also Michael J. Fox is shooting a jump shot from the free throw.
Jump shot free throws. Man, well, there you go. See, we're giving you obscure references. So we were kind of talking about the pre-production side. We've kind of slipped into production side. So tell me about how long you shot Run the Race, where you were.
Yeah, we were in Birmingham and Bessemer, Alabama. I think we had 25 shoot days.
Yeah.
But it's all said and done. I was out there for 12 weeks.
Yep.
But it was really cool. There's a town out there called Bessemer.
Okay.
Total side note, according to the police, they were the highest murder per capita in the United States because they're small, but it was bad.
Wow.
But we had free reign of the town, and it was exactly. In fact, we were doing a one night we were shooting one evening downtown, and it's pretty open downtown, and literally one street over was a gun battle.
Kidding.
One street over. Like our extra and I are, God bless them, but like our extras were like, we had all the. Of course, we also had all the cops with us. I'm sure, who knows what chaos was going around, but it was awesome. And Bessemer was so cool because the town looked. It was just shuttered. It was like in the 50s when Birmingham was a big steel, center, and all the trains were coming through. Like this was like the Beverly Hills, and it just. But then nothing ever updated, and everything went away, and so everything is just shuttered. It was, and so. But it was cool. Yeah, I could just drive around and literally be like, hey, I'm gonna shoot there, and then the cops would block everything off, and we would go shoot, and it became that easy. And so that's the magic of shooting in a small town. I shot my film before that in Louisville. Same thing. It was amazing how they rode down the red carpet for us, and like you can't replicate that in the crazy state of California.
Yeah, I've heard LA is not exactly the same way when they just shoot wherever you want, whenever you want. Cops just clean it up for you.
Yeah.
And
When I was shooting my first short film, this goes to the extent of it. We were in a neighborhood street, and we were shooting both sides of the street, and the cop literally told me everyone that wanted to cross the street had to walk down to the end and cross and this is a neighborhood street. It's not like some crazy busy street. Walk down to the end and cross at the intersection, where the corner is, and come back down. It was insane.
your own people.
This was the cop that we were paying as off-duty cop, but that's how ridiculous it got.
So you were on set 25 days. Were you involved in casting on the film?
Very much so.
You get to do the auditions, kind of work with casting. Did you work with a casting agent, or were you guys?
We actually worked with a couple. We worked with one in LA, and then we actually had a great casting, Regina Moore out in Nashville, who really helped us out, for the local casting, regional, and actually it helped us some even with with our cast that was coming in LA and stuff. It was nice. It was a good experience with them.
So on set, I talked to you a little bit about this, but as the director, like you said, it's a very top-down organization. What's it like for you? Those days of production, do you find somehow 24-hour days, they last 6 hours? The clock goes like triple time. It's weird.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's almost like, what is it, that old school where Will Ferrell's debating James Carville, and he just goes, and just does all this, just,
yeah.
And they just, what do you say? Oh, God. Anyways, but it feels like that where you're just going all day, and then suddenly you go, where did that day go? What did we shoot?
5 p.m.
And that's the craziest thing. I think there's sometimes when after you're done, you're wrapped, and you just go, what did we even shoot today? I can't even remember. And but that's the fun of it too, is the chaos of the organized chaos of the set, where it's like there's a million things going on, and but you still have to be in the moment, especially with the actors. And that's also I think always a credit to the actors when they're performing, and it's there is chaos or there's this and that. It's just like
it's a crazy energy, and that day is done,
energy.
and you get to go to sleep, and you got to be on point again at 6 a.m. the next day, and everyone's going to look to you to understand exactly the tone of the scene, exactly the order of the day. I mean, you got help, but it's intense to direct a film.
What I think for me, and I don't know your experience, but like being a writer with it too, is like almost every day I go home and rewrite something that's going to be coming in the next day or week. Yeah. And so it's like the job's not, done. Is like you go home, you drive back 45 minutes from set, you've been on set for, let's just say 14 hours, and then you go back and it's like, okay, now I'm going to sit down and write just so I can email it out to everybody, so then I get up at 6 in the morning to then go do it again. And that's why when you come off a movie set, you get sick no matter what. It happens every time. Your body it can't keep up. It just crashes. And you're fueled by Red Bull and coffee and beef jerky and all that great stuff. So it's like you're not exactly tip-top shape.
So I want to tip over now to so I don't even quite know how to form this question, because I never know quite how people, where they're coming from when they form it to me. But we're doing films about truth-telling, true stories. Something about the projects that we're working on we believe matters enough that we want to tell true things. We want to tell the truth. How does that infuse your life? How does your Christian faith work for you, maybe against you, be a part of you? Sometimes maybe should be more. I mean, how does it fly with you when you're movie making? I mean, what's the part of you that's Christian?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, honestly, it's back on the set too. It's the way you operate on the set, and not even just a faith-based film, but like any set. Yeah. And so I think it starts there, and then, but I don't know, man. I mean, doing faith films, it's equal parts frustrating as exciting, because you're so handcuffed with certain things, and so, I mean, as much as I love it, and I do love telling the truth and being able to put a worldview out there that is, the way that I perceive the world, and through a Christian lens. But ultimately, I don't want to be so exclusive that only Christians see it.
Of course.
And so I think, obviously that's the challenge, is making films, which I think I do, that are inclusive and not exclusive. And part of that is making it feel like a real, like you're saying, but it's truth, but it's like making it feel real. Like you don't get everything you pray for, and like it doesn't always wrap up in a bow, and like, it doesn't, you don't become a Christian and suddenly you can throw your laptop against the wall and you're, no longer addicted to porn. Like, that's great if that really happened. And maybe it's happened for a couple people, but I don't want someone who's doing that and is not a Christian, maybe, that tries that and it goes, well, that didn't work for me.
Right.
And then it loses something for them. And I also think it's much more of a discussion or a journey. I mean, even my own faith walk, it's a journey much more than an answer. Like, I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring it out as I go along. Now, I know what I'm rooted in, what I believe, but ultimately, I don't trust people that know all the answers and they've got everything figured out. I don't trust you if you tell me that. It just doesn't work for me.
Now we see things as through a glass darkly, and then we shall see face to face. If we say we know it all, we're not even reading our own book.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a plumber. Maybe you're a student. Maybe you're a school teacher. And in a sense, I think the same question would apply. Like, there's stresses in all these professions. There's things that can make you crazy. So if we can enter our studenthood, our plumberhood, our teacherhood, and have, I'll say this, I don't know exactly what the difference is, but if I know people are praying for me, or I have someone that I can pray, it just kind of calms me down.
Yeah.
It calms me down.
But let me throw this at you. The cool thing is, you probably have a bunch like this, but I've got friends that are agnostic or of different faith. There's very few people I've ever experienced in my life, and I just go, hey man, you know what? I'm going to pray for you.
Oh yeah.
That are like, oh, don't pray for me, or don't. But you have to be in a relationship where they trust you to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like,
yeah.
Because it is, I'm coming at you with love versus like, if it's like, I've been browbeating the whole time, and I'm like, I'm going to pray for you. Well, that has a whole different connotation.
Right.
And so I think that's important, is like just loving on people.
Right.
I always look at it and I always go, hey man, like, for whatever you want to believe or espouse, whatever, like, tell me who Jesus wouldn't love. Point out the person that Jesus would say, I don't love that person. And that's the person that I go, okay, maybe I don't love him, but I can't find that person.
Right.
And that's why I think that but leading with love and leading with grace, it doesn't mean, free reign, go do whatever you want, cheap grace, do whatever. But it means, hey, there's a way to make this work to people that don't understand it yet.
A friend of mine said to me this year, the difference between fruit. We talk as Christians sometimes about fruit. She says, well, but fruit, and I don't even know if this is true, so I'll throw this on the podcast, but she says a fruit always comes from a flower. And so the flower comes first. And so she said, if you can't have the fragrance, then you won't reproduce into a fruit. Which I think it makes a lot of sense to me. So it might be with my UPM, it might be with my makeup artist, it might be with whoever on that set. I kind of hope, even though we're structured and we're working every day, that we may or may not have any fruit. I don't know. That's kind of not necessarily up to me. But if we can have the fragrance, and that's all you're talking about. You care specifically about this person. You respect the talent that they bring to the set, the quality of their work, the difficulty, the hardness of the work they're putting in. And I bet people like working on your sets, because that just makes a huge difference with people working.
I hope so. And I mean, again, I think the biggest sports guys, right? Like
sports guys.
You never want to play for a coach you don't like. And I don't mean that like we just have personal. I mean, like, if there's somebody that you're not, pulling for, whatever, and like and so that's always been my strategy too, is like, hey, like I want you not to do anything, but like I want you to respect me, but you also need to know that I care about you, so I like you, because you're going to work harder, and we're going to be a better team if we all are on the same page of like, hey, we all respect and like each other. And so I think that is what I think a lot of sets miss, when especially when there's directors that dive out, like they do their thing and they're like, okay,
gone.
And they're gone. And you're like, okay, but it's there's a fine level of accessibility I think that you need to have as a director and collaborative, mind frame. But who knows? I mean, I guess each person's different. But for me, that's where that really, I want to be a coach that people respect, but that they like and they understand the vision.
Have you ever blown it? Ever lost your mind?
On set, I'm trying to think. I don't know that I've blown it yet. I don't know that I've gotten. And if I have bad moments, I would walk off, because I get mad at myself. I understand if people. Here's my thing too. It's like, and I always say this at the beginning. We do my, the pre-director. Hey guys, I'm the director. But it's like, we're gonna make mistakes here. I totally get it, but we're gonna operate with grace in the first mistake. make 2 mistakes, we need to start talking. But I understand if you make 1 mistake, and I might make a mistake. I'll definitely make a mistake.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's incumbent on me to fix anything that's wrong.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm trying to think if I've really lost it on something. I mean, I've been put in some situations where, well, you know how it is when you're directing. I mean, you're a psychologist in a lot of places. So I've had some weird situations with actors and stuff where, you know, you have to kind of, because everyone's different, weave and
You're
get
trying
through
to
there.
figure out the right way to get this person motivated to do what you want them to do, but make them think that's what they want to do.
Right, but also even to calm down sometimes. Like when they get worked up and it's like, dude, I understand, but we still have this job we got to do. It's just like, it's
Have
a
you
hard...
ever been an actor?
Yeah. Briefly.
I mean, enough to know what they're going. It's a little harder than people think. I mean, there are a lot of distractions in that room.
Yes.
And they aren't supposed to be aware. Not only not let the camera see it, but they have to actually be in this place that the camera sees. And there's 50 people standing around them that aren't in costume, that aren't in the moment. It's not an easy job.
Yeah, and you know what I was saying? The cool thing with the beauty of, and we had young actors and Run the Race, but and when you see it, they do a great job.
How old are your leads?
They were 21 and 20 at the time, I think.
Right, good.
But, you know, the way that we had, because we pre-rigged everything, like I said, so it's practical lights. So we rebuilt their entire house so that we could shoot everything. And so there was plenty of times when it was a scene where like Tanner had to really get there. I backed everyone out besides the DP. I let the DP go in there and he was shooting. He was the only person with the camera. Everyone else out of the house.
Right.
But because we had all the way we rigged everything, we were able to do that. And I think that lent a lot because it works. But I think for, like you're saying, sometimes, especially young actors, there's a guy in my eye line over here, and there's this person. There's especially union jobs. Hey, a guy's eating a sandwich while I'm trying to kill. I'm having a death scene right here. And there's a guy reading a paper eating a sandwich. Like, it is what it is. And so to operate, actors, they have a hard job for sure.
Well, we try to be sensitive to the actor. They're carrying the freight, and I know that there are times where the crew's just being themselves, but it's a little loud, and we just want to be sensitive to this person that, like you said, is going to do a death scene or that's going to have they're making jokes. It's not always appropriate, and we've got to help the actors know that we have their back. We're with Chris Dowling, and he's the director of Run the Race, and it's in theaters. By the time podcast, it might be in Redbox by then. Who knows? Yeah. But you and I, listener, are going to go see this movie because I can't wait to see it now. I'm just talking with Chris, and we just met today at NRB, and I'm telling you right now, this is the kind of director that I want to see your work, and I want to see the story that you tell. So we're all going to go watch this film, and then we'll have you back.
Oh, I appreciate it. I'd love you back.
So any last things, just on a podcast, someone can spend these 45 minutes with us, and hopefully there's something in their life this connects to, something about their job, how they run their life. Is there anything that comes to you that you would just throw out there that you've learned as a director that you think is universal truth?
I mean, I think we hit on it, and I think it's worth hitting on again. Is just like you said it. It's like whatever job you're at, it doesn't matter, whatever, CEO to janitor, like, it's just the way you treat people. And because not only just that, because that's the way it should be, but like also because those people at some point in life, they're not always going to be a janitor. They're always going to be, and that's one thing in the entertainment industry, especially when I talk to young kids and stuff, I tell them is like, the people that you're walking in or the assistants, they're going to be running companies one day. So don't think in 10 years from now, that if you treated this person wrong or da-da-da, it's like, I mean, that's just incentive. That's just added bonus because you should be treating people, with respect and love anyways. But I'm just saying there's added benefits if you do it in wherever job, position, family, doesn't matter, wherever you're at. I think that's what I would take away from that.
So this is Chris Dowling, director of Run the Race, and as proof of what he just said, right before we walked over to these microphones, 2 big executives at a very big studio that you would all know said, "Oh, you guys are talking to Chris Dowling? That's our favorite director." That's a good reputation to have, and it comes out of integrity. So do that, and people will notice. Chris, thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate it, brother.
Have no shame.